Getting vocals to cut through a mix is on everyone's to-do list while mixing, and today I want to show you a quick and easy way to get it done. Okay, so jumping into Studio One, here I have a song that I recently mixed for a client called 80 the Artist, and the secret sauce here is a new plugin by Denise Audio called Dragonfire. Denise Audio is a company that I've worked with before. They make fantastic plugins, and they were gracious enough to sponsor this video, so a huge shout out to them. But okay, let me demo this plugin for you first, and then I'll walk you through the science of how it works, because it's actually really impressive. Okay, so here I have a snippet of the chorus, and I'm gonna play a bit for you, take the plugin on and off, and we'll kind of just go from there. So here we go.
Call me a whistle like Brody and Bill. Paint on my get caught with a steel. Know it get real in the field when hating and police is shooting to kill. I'm at the level, my fingertips getting much harder to feel. This ain't a drill, you couldn't do it if you gave it all of your will. Call me a whistle like Brody and Bill. Paint on my get caught with a steel. Know it get real in the field when hating and police is shooting to kill. I'm at the level, my fingertips getting much harder to feel. This ain't a drill, you couldn't do it if you gave it all of your will.
Now, admittedly, there is some volume/gain being introduced here, which does add to the vocal's loudness, but there is so much more going on, so let's take a look. Now, this here is Dragonfire, and Denise Audio refers to it as a tonal compressor. Now, the entire idea behind this plugin is based on the push-pull vocal mixing method from Andrew Scheps. If you don't know Andrew, then definitely look him up, because he's one of the greatest, but one of his most famous tricks involved using parallel processing to make a vocal stand out. What Andrew would do is take a vocal track, duplicate it, and then on the duplicate, he would add a Pultec EQ to cut out the lows and then boost the upper, mid, and high frequencies. From there, he would add an LA2A compressor and compress the heck out of that vocal, and then finishing it off by adding another Pultec EQ to reverse the effects of the first, so essentially boosting the lows and then cutting the upper, mids, and highs. He would then finish everything off by blending in the processed vocal back into the original source until he got that balance that he wanted. Now, this processing does seem a little counterintuitive at first, but the magic is in that compressor in the middle. With the first EQ, you're basically controlling how the compressor is going to react to that incoming signal. So basically, by cutting out the lows and boosting the upper, mids, and highs, you're telling that compressor to mainly focus on compressing those frequencies. The last EQ in this chain is there mainly to help smooth out the tonal balance of the vocal and help retain the natural tone of the voice. The ultimate result is that your vocals are now brighter and more intelligible. Now, a couple things to point out here. Andrew Scheps used Pultec and LA2As because of the characteristics that they had and left on whatever they process, but you don't have to use those too. There are many Pultec and LA2A clones that you can use out there, but in theory, this should work with any EQ and compressor more or less. The second thing to point out here, as you might have already guessed, is that you can use any other plugins, EQs, compressors to replicate this trick, but if you want a super easy way with a ton more functionality and control, then this is where Dragonfire comes in. This plugin is basically the entire Andrew Scheps vocal chain of EQ, compressor, EQ that I just described, but in one plugin. The best thing about this is that this plugin retains a lot of the characteristics of the Pultec and LA2A, so if you want to replicate this vocal trick, this is by far the easiest way to do it. Going back to the plugin here, although it is built around that EQ, compressor, EQ technique, there are plenty of controls to help you sculpt your sound and a ton of presets that are ready for you to use. If you want the exact Andrew Scheps vocal technique setting, all you have to do is go to the bottom to where you see this little folder here, click on that, and you'll get presented with a menu. From here, all you have to do is basically just scroll all the way to the bottom till you see vocals, and then select the Denise Audio Opto Push-Pull trick and hit open. I already had this loaded here, but if you didn't, this is what you would see. Now, of course, you can tweak this to your liking, but a lot of times it will sound great right out of the gate. In this mix, for example, I didn't do any tweaking, I left it at the default. Now, a couple things to point out here. Number one is that this plugin is not just for vocals. This will also work great on other things like drums, guitars, basses, and more. Second is that from my experience, this will work better on more dense mixes where that vocal really needs that extra help to cut through. Now, that's not to say that this won't work on slimmer mixes, it definitely will, but again, from my experience, you're going to see more of this effect, you're going to notice it more on larger, more dense mixes, so just keep that in mind. Third, like you would expect from Denise Audio, the level of control in this thing is incredible. You can tweak practically anything you want in this plugin to really dial in the EQ and compression settings that you need for your mix. What I showed you today was just a small example of what you can do, but I will also be leaving a link to some Denise Audio videos from their site that walk you through every knob and parameter. I also really encourage you to download the trial and take this thing out for a spin, just so you can see if it's really right for you. Finally, I will also be leaving a link to this song down below in the description in case you want to check it out. It's already out on all streaming platforms. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll be leaving a link to Dragonfire and this song down below in the description. Once again, thank you to Denise Audio for sponsoring this video. And as always, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, but I'll see you on the next one.